What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Sales Remastered. My name is Daniel, I'm the host, and in this episode, I'm gonna share with you an easier way to complete the sales cycle. And so I got the whiteboard with me, and I'm gonna actually kind of animate the process so it's easier to understand. And my main goal here is to show you that the process in itself is actually not too difficult, but most of the time it's us as sales representatives that create our own roadblocks, meaning that we're not even giving it an opportunity for the sales process to happen because we're choosing to add resistance. And so my goal here today is that after this video, you're gonna look at the process or the sales conversation or the fusion from hello to here's my product and here's my pitch at a more easier state, or at least an easier way of going about the process. And you're gonna find that the tips that I share in this video is gonna show you how a lot of the times it's roadblocks that we create. And after you watch this video, if you really analyze and apply it to your own sales cycle, I think you could really walk away with not only an answer on how to create more sales, but an answer on how to take a lot of the frustration out of your day-to-day hustle. So here what I have is, I drew kind of the timeline, or at least the process from the beginning of the sale all the way to the actual sale, which is noted here through $. And on this side, I put you as sales, this is us. And then on this side, I put the customer. And this is basically where the customer stands. This is where the customer begins. Think of this almost as kind of just the entry, right? The entry into the sales conversation. This is where the inquiry starts. And this line where the $sign is where the inquiry turns into a closed sale, a closed transaction. And what I found is that a lot of the sales conversations, and you might agree, if you think back to your past 5 or 10 sales conversations, how it started, you may find that some of these roadblocks are actually being created by you. Most commonly, the reason why most sales never make it from the beginning all the way to the end is simply because we are pitching our product at the wrong time. Meaning we're actually going into underwriting questions where we're actually, we're negotiating the price and fees of our product without first understanding the mindset of our own customer, of our consumer. And so through this video, you're gonna find out when and where you should actually talk about the actual fees and costs or interest rate. And you're gonna find that it's not here at the beginning where most sales conversation end, is because we're choosing to go over too much information up front in the beginning without understanding the thoughts, or at least what's driving your prospects. So pay attention, I hope that this helps. If you notice that with sales, a lot of times we'll end up getting common objections somewhere around here, right around the beginning of the phone conversation. These objections have to do with price. Notice that your customer is always going to be concerned about a few certain things. One of their main drives is cost. So everyone having the option to compare services and compare products to other companies, which are your competitors, they want to make sure that they're not missing out on any specials or any bargains. And they want to make sure that they're not paying more than they need to. So this is typically one of the very first objections. And a lot of times the customers are going to show you resistance, meaning they're not going to want to give you all the vital information that you need to close that prospect. They're going to play hardball. And this is something that we have to understand. This is something that we as sales representatives just need to reframe the way that we're communicating our message. But most commonly what happens is at this point, when customers initiate the sales conversation, one of the very first things that they want to talk about is how much your costs are, or what your rate is, or what your fees are, right? And so what we find here as salesmen is we end up going over too much vital information at the very beginning of the sales conversation. The only reason why that's a problem is because you don't know what, again, drives your prospect. Meaning beyond cost, beyond fees, there is a need that we have a solution to. And so if you figure that this person has a particular need or a want or a desire or some sort of interest with regards to the result of your product, which is obviously commenced at the sale, meaning they can experience the result. They can experience the benefit that you're talking about throughout this entire sales process or sales conversation. Where we get hit, where we lose interest of the customers because we're going over it here at the very beginning. Well, a lot of the emotional tie, a lot of the reasons why your prospect is comparing you to begin with, or they want to know what your cost is to begin with, is because they are interested in buying your service or your product. And I think that with sales representatives, us standing in our own way is we're actually just going into the pitch too soon. And so if you end up pitching here at the very beginning without first understanding what drives your prospect, usually what drives your prospect is discovered here, or somewhere between here and here. And why this is important to understand is because without first reaching what drives them, the reason why they're even looking at your product to begin with, and we ended up pitching here, is we do not give ourselves the leverage that we need. This leverage is also referred to as benefit. What the customer's needs are, and their EQ. Emotional intelligence is what I'm referring to. So you're not understanding yet what emotion drives your prospect to the end goal, to actually buy your services or your product. And when we end up pitching at the very beginning, without first understanding what the leverage is, we have no rebuttal to their objection. And so we could talk about price, fees, and rate all day, but that's very narrow-minded from a sales representative, meaning that you're going to fail more often than none. The only real prospects that you're going to turn are those prospects that just want to get it done real quick. They don't care about the price, they don't care about the fees. They may know your company, they may have a friend who worked with your company, and so these are more easier to convert, because what happens is that they're already, they're kind of already on game, and so you don't really need to talk to them much. Unfortunately, though, that those type of prospects are very rare, so it's not like you're going to come across those all the time. The truth is that most of the prospects you're going to deal with, especially at the very beginning of originating for your entire month's pipeline, are prospects who've never heard of you. These are prospects who are on guard. They are trying to protect themselves from you because you're the sales representative. And so the challenge is, well, how do we effectively communicate a way that explains how we can help them? How can I find out what emotional tie, their EQ, what emotional tie the customer has to the result of my product? Meaning that my product does, in my case, I work in financial services. So my product, my service, it enables them to obtain a lower payment. Now, lower payment, whether it's $20 or it's $100 or $300, it all differs, right? But there's a reason why my customers are coming to me, is because they want to save money. And that's typically the objection that I meet right here at the very beginning. My common objection is, before I give you any information, I just want to know if your interest rates are, or what your interest rates are, and if you could beat my current rate. And if you work in real estate right now, you understand that the market is always up and down. The market is never at one given rate for too long, but the prospects, they don't understand that. And so a lot of the times the prospects just believe that whatever advertisement they heard 3 years ago still is applicable today. But the problem is, though, where most salesmen kind of collapse is because they bring in their own emotional tie to that objection, or the common objection that never lets them go past or even through the entire sales conversation. Now, why this is important is because we as salesmen need to understand that a lot of the stuff that we put in front of us is bullshit. It literally doesn't even apply, meaning that we are the one qualifying whether or not $20 savings is worthy enough, because our pockets, with our perspective as a sales representative, we may kind of prejudge whether or not that's even a worthy product. And let's say if we didn't, let's say to you and me, $20 was not a big deal, but we're talking to someone, let's say in rural Idaho, who only makes $1,200 a month. That $20 is actually a pretty big chunk of their monthly income, right? when you consider after gross, after income. But to your income, if you're making $3,000 plus or $5,000 plus, that $20 isn't necessarily something that's, it's not a game changer for you. But what we do is we look at that $20 savings and we figure to ourselves like, oh, they'll never buy it, or oh, they're gonna shop me, or oh, my competitor has a better product, they could probably save them more, they don't charge any fees. And so we have all this noise inside of our head that really plays with our mindset, meaning that we are not as confident when we're presenting these benefits to our prospect. And so how do you do this? How do you get past that? Number one is you don't get so consumed in the numbers, meaning that when they call and ask for that rate right up front, you don't just jump into negotiation. You still have kind of a journey to go through, especially here where you need to learn about your prospect, what drives them, what kind of emotional ties that they have. And that's what you're gonna learn here at Sales Remastered is how do I get through the entire process and end up making a sale? How do I stop getting kind of roadblocked at the very beginning of the conversation without even finishing my whole speech, my whole spew, my whole script? And the most effective way of getting past this and actually making it through the process to a sale is to use the sales script. I got a link right below these notes. If you look through the notes in itself, it says download the sales script now at salesremaster.com. It's absolutely free. Inside as a bonus, I put 3 things that really are going to keep you relevant in sales throughout this year, the next year, and the years to come. And the reason why I believe that they're effective is because they're against the norm. They're not, they are things that worked for me all throughout my sales career for over 20 years now, all the way up until today. It is the same message that I preach to my team. My team in itself, working for a national size organization, I run the #1 sales team. My team is the smallest team as well. And when I say #1, I'm talking about by leaps and bounds. With regards to funded units and overall production per agent, I was able to manifest a team that grew from only 3 people as the bottom team across the entire US, and I'm talking about over 100 teams, multiple branches, net branches. And my #1 team that I work with and I'm fortunate enough to lead is sitting at the top. And so how do we do this, especially not being a net branch, meaning that we don't meet our clients, we don't see our prospects. We do it all over the phone, we do it from a call center, and we sell one of the most competitive products in the market right now, which is interest rate and basically mortgage loans. And so I want to share with you the concept of how I'm able to get through to prospects who or in some cases on the other side of the country. They've never met me, they've never worked with my business, they've never heard of my business, and they have my competitors who offer the same product and the same services directly located within the borough of their own neighborhood, meaning they could drive there and go and see them. But why do they stick with me? Why do they go, why did they go the whole way with me? And my life cycle on my sale from opening the conversation here all the way to it actually funding, meaning that I'm now going to be paid on the closed transaction. This entire process is 45 days on average. So it's between 30 to 45 days, meaning 30 to 45 days, my prospect is getting solicited by all my competitors. 30 to 45 days, my prospect is seeing commercials, ads, banner ads, social media, TV commercials, radio commercials, newspapers. They're seeing every single competitor of mine advertising their interest rates and advertising their special programs. And the truth is that prospects' loyalty, although there are some who have strong loyalty to a company, at the end of the day, it comes down to the bottom line. Who's got the better price and who's got the better product. And so the loyalty isn't necessarily strong when it comes to a prospect. So there are going to be times where you lose a sale. But how do you increase the odds of you not losing a sale? How do you assure that your prospect, whether they're in your neighborhood or they're on the other side of the country, are sticking with you and giving you their full loyalty? It's simple. You got to follow the strategies here at Sales Remastered. If this is your first time coming by, please consider subscribing, hitting that red button that says subscribe, hit the bell. You'll be notified of my uploads, which I average about 3 to 4 a week. Real helpful content, and I'll give you a notification of what the title is of that video. If you believe that you could use some value or some benefit off that, or if you like the content that I share as kind of a motivational prep on your way into work or at the gym or on your lunch or at work, then you can have that content readily available from a push of a button, or technically from a push of a screen. And so I make this readily available for you because I am driven by those who want to help themselves. You know, it reminds me a lot of myself. When I was coming up, I didn't have YouTube, I didn't have Facebook. What I had to look to were sales books, sales seminars. You know, I actually had to go to these live locations. I studied the top producers within my zone, within my sales floor, and I figured out why it worked, not how it worked. And going deeper beyond just a sales script and the everyday sales tone, when you understand the science of selling, you're not selling anymore, you are consulting. And when you understand how to consult, you don't need to sell. You become the professional, you become the authoritative figure that's able to walk your prospect from beginning to close. So in short, just be sure that at the very beginning of any sales conversation, you don't want to go too far into the rate and price and fees. As a matter of fact, at the very beginning of the sales conversation is when you want to take over right away. Not only to save yourself time, but save your prospects some time as well. Because we have a fiduciary duty to make sure that we're doing right by our prospects. And so the science of selling that you learn here at Sales Remastered, although it is very persuasive, it is very, very persuasive. You're going to learn certain things that are not taught by your corporate trainer. These things are not taught by, let's say, Grant Cardone or other influencers that are on social media, because it goes into the thought process, it goes into the psychology of sales. And this is something I had to learn not only as a profession, but also just to get through life. Check out my content, you'll learn a little bit more about me. I've organized it as well in playlists, so I've got mindset preparation, motivation, sales therapy. The sales therapy is pretty fire because you're gonna see content on there where these are your own concerns being vented out. And not only am I venting it out, but I'm also sharing with you how I've dealt with it and how I've seen top producers deal with those same struggles and deal with those same concerns. And so this is a struggle that I believe is stopping a lot of sales representatives from actually making a sale. It's important to make a sale because in that sale you create a relationship, and without looking at this process as a way of helping your prospect, you're not creating a relationship. Why that relationship is important is because that prospect will become a repeat client. They'll become a referral base, and they'll become their own little media center, meaning that this prospect has their own social media accounts, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, or what have you. They have their own access to these medias, and so there comes that common ground. And why that's important is because at the end of the sale, you want to be able to use your prospect as kind of like a cheerleader system, meaning that they are so happy and content with your services that they're more than happy to refer their family, their neighbors, their friends, their coworkers, all to you if they have any questions that have to do with the product you sell. And so the takeaway here is that without understanding, the entire process has certain key points, certain phases within the conversation. And the timing of delivery of certain information, like rate and fees, should not be given at the very beginning of the conversation without understanding what drives your product or what drives your prospect towards your product, because that becomes your leverage. Without having any leverage, it becomes very difficult to rebut any objection that comes up in the sales conversation. It is much easier to handle objections here after you know what drives your prospect, after you know why they need your result, why they need your product, why they need your service. And all of that becomes leverage. It just becomes leverage as to why they should buy right now. The leverage is what creates urgency. It's what creates compliance, and it's what persuades them to continue going throughout this entire process. And so the life cycle of your sales may not be as long as mine, 30 to 45 days. this life cycle could probably be 5 to 10 minutes. And if it is, then you're gonna learn a wealth of knowledge at Sales Remastered in regards of what to say, how to say, and when to say it. So take a look around on the playlist, and please leave your comments and your likes, your shares below. I definitely read them, and I definitely respond back. If you have any questions with regards to the content here, feel free to email me, daniel@salesremastered.com. I'm more than happy to offer you any type of free coaching that I can give, if should I have time, to maybe script out a sales script that's designed for your common objection that you reach right here. What you're gonna notice is that whatever product or service you sell, throughout this sales conversation, you're always going to receive certain objections. And so my sales script is really meant to take control of the conversation so you can quickly confirm whether or not that product or service is right for that consumer. More importantly, you want to make sure that that consumer is even qualified for my product and service. Otherwise, I'm going down a direction that's not going to be worthy of either time that's being allotted. And so my message to you here is that within this sales conversation, you're going to notice that you're going to reach different objections, probably different than the one I've announced to you. Either way, there's an objection, and that becomes a roadblock. What we have to do is whether we hit that roadblock here, or we hit it here, or we hit it here, it's going to be common that they're there. Meaning that in this point of the conversation, there could be commonly you're getting stopped by an objection. That, let's say that objection is, well, what are the terms of your agreement? And let's say that commonly starts at right here in this sales conversation, maybe 5 minutes into the call or 3 minutes into the call. What we have to analyze is what we are talking about within the first 3 minutes of the call, or what we are not talking about. Because you'll notice that those objections happen commonly within a specific time of your sales conversation. And when we get out of being a robot, kind of just kind of a victim to the process, meaning that we're relying on just the system or script to funnel out sales without using our own creativity, we're going to forget that we can actually look back and figure out, okay, well, if I'm coming across this objection commonly at this point in the conversation, maybe I can reword my conversation for that first 2 or 3 minutes so I can address that objection that I'm always commonly asked. And again, whether it's 5 minutes in, 6 minutes in, 8 minutes in, or at the very end, you're able to reverse engineer that sales conversation so that you can address the objection before it comes. It's just a process, but it's up to you on how you refine that process. And how you refine that process and how to improve it and how to make it better, remove the grind from your hustle as you continue following Sales Remastered. And whether you caught this on Facebook, whether you caught this on YouTube, Instagram, or you found my brand through SalesRemastered.com and getting a copy of that sales script, continue to follow, continue to like and comment. I'm getting better at releasing the content, and more importantly, you're getting better at identifying with the content, because I'm getting your DMs, I'm getting those responses saying that I've helped you increase your sales. I'm getting your messages saying that my script has enabled you to get past a lot of the rejection that stopped you before from making a complete sale. And what that means to me is that I know my techniques that I share with you for free has enabled you to gain the confidence, gain the awareness, gain the knowledge, gain the mentoring, more importantly, gain the increase in sales and income to provide for your family and provide for yourself. My only hope is that you're investing it back into yourself, meaning you're still putting money aside to continue investing into your craft. You're going to find that these techniques will take you to the place you want to go, but you can't stop growing. You got to continue feeding your brain and continue trying to master your craft. Continue trying to refine it to a point where it just works automatically. And when you can have an automated sales cycle, that is when you find freedom. This is when you're able to work like the elite crowd who only works, let's say, 7 to 8 hours per day, but are getting paid 10 times the amount of other individuals working 9 to 10 hours per day. This is how. I hope this message helps, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye.